just felt so stuck in this kind of dark era, in my dark environment, in my dark thoughts. Whenever I looked at the mirror, I couldn't look at myself. I say slow down skincare, but I never slow down myself.
Slow down life.
The advice that I always follow myself, at least, is follow your curiosity and just start double clicking.
If more companies thought the way that you thought, the world would be a much, much, much better place. Hello cuties. In today's episode, we're joined by Leah Yu, an absolute gem of a human who started her career at one of the biggest South Korean beauty conglomerates, goes on to become the first YouTuber in Korea, now with over 1 million subscribers, and built a literal skincare empire while simultaneously taking on the whole beauty industry. Leah is one of my besties and we've swapped many stories throughout the years, but this specific conversation allowed me to get to know her on an even deeper soul level that I didn't think was possible. From sharing about her journey on taking significant risks in a society where there's only one path to success, leaving a comfortable job to commit to YouTube full time before making any money, to navigating her darkest days and eventually founding and becoming the CEO of her own company, which of course came with its fair share of risks, self-doubt, and imposter syndrome. This episode is incredibly inspiring, vulnerable, and heartbreaking in the most beautiful way. You guys will see why. A true testament to her resilient, grounding, and badass nature. We hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we love chatting with Leah.
Leah Yu, welcome to Voice Hugs. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. This is kind of awkward because I'm so close to you guys in person or in real life. But yes, I'm excited to be here at Voice Hugs to hug you guys virtual.
We want to hug you virtually.
Yeah.
IRL.
And IRL.
Physically.
Yes.
So Leah is one of my besties. I think Viv and I both look up to you so much in so many different ways, from just the person that you are and how driven you are and how you built a freaking empire and you're challenging a whole beauty industry. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, so much admiration for you. I think just seeing where your journey started 10 years ago to where you are today. Fun fact about Leah, did you know that she was the first Korea-based YouTuber ever?
Isn't that mind-blowing? Because at the time that I started YouTube, like YouTube wasn't a thing in Korea.
Wait, you're the first ever?
I'm the first ever
I just got the
Korea-based
chills.
YouTuber.
I thought it was skincare beauty.
No, like the whole.
Mommy.
Maybe YouTube Korea gave me the wrong statistics, but they were the one who acknowledged that like you were actually the very first YouTube.
That's incredible. And I think like even just that itself, there's so many questions I have around that. In a time where your peers in Korea were not uploading content, you decided, hey, I'm going to leave my cushy job at Amora Pacific.
Very esteemed company.
Yeah.
Yes, it was actually very esteemed because, you know, in Korea, there's a lot of pathways to success.
There's actually not many. There's a lot, but there's not many.
Yeah, agreed upon way to succeed. And one of the most prominent ways to succeed in life was get into Sky universities, Seoul National Universities, Korea University, Yonsei University. I didn't make it into the top 3. But after you go into a prestigious college, then your job kind of determines your social status. And for a lot of women, Amore Pacific was definitely high up there. That kind of like grants immediate success status, I guess. So yeah, a lot of people, you know, right after college, they would apply for a job in Amore Pacific. And I got lucky to get a job there.
That's amazing. And so knowing that, and that was the kind of environment that you're in, that's the social norm as well, or like what's considered successful in Korea. How did you go from that to deciding to go full-time content creation? Again, at a time where no one else around you was doing that.
And at a time where you were on the right, quote unquote, right track to success.
Wow. Wow, this goes way back. If you
10, 15 years.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I did start my YouTube channel in 2011. So that was my senior year in college, but I didn't really develop any type of viewership or audience, or my channel was anywhere big to quit having a full-time job, a corporate job, in order to pursue YouTube full-time. But after working for a corporate job for 2.5 years, I tried my best to still keep up with YouTube. on weekends because I viewed YouTube as more of a creative outlet, and I am a naturally introverted person. So instead of actually interacting with people one-on-one in person, I would naturally resort to actually creating something or talking to the camera in my own room without any interference or any human's presence in the room. That felt more comfortable for some reason. Just sharing like my passion for beauty, my passion for Korean skincare online with anonymous people out there. I just thought that like there was something so special in it that we can actually get connected globally with people who you never have met through a channel like YouTube. Going back to your question of like, when did I decide to quit my corporate job to go YouTube full time? I think there are a lot of dots that kind of connected. The very first one was that after working for More Pacific in the digital marketing department and e-com department for 2.5 years, I felt kind of stagnant after doing the same thing over and over again. So I was open for exploration and a new chapter in terms of my career. And I did apply for Lineage global marketing team within the company, which I actually got accepted. But at the time, that was the time where the CEO of the entire company had kind of took notice of my existence in the company. And then he was wanting to create something similar that Lancome and L'Oreal Group did for Michelle Phan back in the day in, I think, 2015. They assigned Michelle Phan as a digital global brand ambassador for Lancome, and a More Pacific CEO was definitely wanting to create something similar for the group in Korea, and he thought that it would be a good idea to recruit me to hire into that position to become the global brand ambassador for a More Pacific.
That's huge.
Wow.
That is huge, but I don't think I felt comfortable enough because, you know, as I said, YouTube is my personal creative outlet, and I would rather have like full on control to what I have to say and what I want to say. Once you sign some sort of contract like that to become a representation of a whole company, I think it'll naturally come with a lot of restrictions. I didn't really feel comfortable, so I turned down the job, and then I eventually left the company because I didn't think I had a future at More Pacific. So that was when I kind of took a bet to jump the gun and take the leap of faith. And I don't think I was financially ready per se to pursue YouTube full time. I think when I quit my job, I only had maybe 120,000 subscribers. And that's not like enough, or like
120K.
120K. That's not like a big.
I thought that's in your bank account. I was like, that's
No.
a good amount of money.
Subscribers. Yeah. And also this was like pre-prime influencer marketing era. There wasn't such a formula where like, oh, if you're an influencer, you're going to become like a millionaire or something like that. So I think it just happened. I think it just happened, and I just followed my gut, and yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
So that leap of faith, I think that leap of faith right there, deciding to leave a More Pacific behind and, you know, getting to a point in your career at that point, feeling like there's nothing here for me. I'm going to take a bet on myself. I feel like a lot of people can connect or resonate with that, where they might feel stuck. They might feel like they're not necessarily where they want to be, but there's fear in taking that risk, taking that leap.
Yeah.
During that time, what were you telling yourself? Like, what was going on in your mind taking that bet?
I mean, honestly, I kind of had no choice because I turned down the CEO's job offer.
Really, I have to leave now.
So I honestly thought that it was more forced than anything. And I'm not implying that CEO like held gun on my back to like fire me if I don't take the job. But I just felt that if I'm taking down such a huge role at the company, that means I'm not going to peak at a More Pacific with any other positions. And I think at the time, like when comparing my potential future at Lineage Global Marketing versus my potential future of becoming a full-time YouTube content creator and the reach that you may have. And of course, Lineage has become such a huge brand now. I love the brand, but I just wanted to see what I can do with my own effort, my own channel, with my own reach that I continuously develop and see how I can take like K-beauty further, because my primary focus in joining the company at Amore Pacific was, can I be a part of actually propelling the entire K-beauty wave more globally and internationally? Of course, I can do that with being part of the already established company, but I thought it would be more meaningful to just build that on my own. I mean, financially, I don't think I was ready. The year right after that was definitely challenging. It's probably the darkest time out of my entire life, I must say. I was just cornered into a room, and I was still living with my parents. Not having a constant paycheck started to make me freak out and started to make me doubt the decision that I made to leave the company to pursue this, what I thought would be a great idea to propel the K-beauty, whatever mission that I had personally.
I think one thing to add a bit more color and context is that if you grew up in the States and you're like, oh, let me choose to do something a little different, that's sure. The States is like, it's not as homogenous. Everyone's very independent to begin with. So for you to make the decision that you made, I mean, you're a very humble gal. You just kind of make decisions and move on with your life. But I think that at that time was like no one around you did that. Right?
No one around me did that.
No one in Korea would do that.
No, because they didn't know the concept of YouTube fully enough. And also, I think I didn't worry too much because I was still in my 20s. And then if I give this 100%, try out YouTube full time for about 2 to 3 years, I'm still going to be in my 20s. I can still go back to a corporate job. So when I was kind of weighing out what would be the bigger regret out of the two in not taking the job at Amore Pacific versus not pursuing YouTube full time for at least 2 years, I thought the regret that I would have with YouTube was going to be way bigger, which has made the decision making pretty easy in a way. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone around me fully understood why I had made that decision. Even my parents, I don't think they ever was against my decision, but they were definitely worried. Just they never voiced it or vocalized like how they felt about the decision. But it was also the decision that I made for myself for the very first time, which is very ironic because, like, in Korea, you are in the school system that are basically training you to become this cog of the entire society. When you apply for a bigger conglomerate or corporate job, I think there's an expectation that you follow that's socially set for you. Basically, it's not so much of a voluntary thing that, okay, I should do this and have a job because it will fulfill me personally. I feel like everyone's accustomed to get a job because that's the way to success and that's the acceptable way to live in South Korea. So having that as a context around me and just going more independent or going on a more different path to other friends and college friends, my high school friends, has been a very interesting journey, not gonna lie, but it's a rewarding one. But I'm saying because it all worked out in the end. If it didn't, I think I would have felt so miserable, to be honest, and I would start just going down the rabbit hole of comparing myself to other people who are still in Amore Pacific, who are still getting a stable paycheck, and who are, I don't know, just living a quote unquote normal lifestyle that is defined in Korea as more successful and more prestigious.
Before we continue with the episode, we want to drop in and share that our Voice Hug shop is now live. Our first launch, called the For All Seasons collection, includes 5 super cute greeting cards that can be sent to your besties throughout any season of their lives. I love writing cards as much as I love receiving them. There's something so meaningful about taking time out of our busy lives to reflect, put our thoughts onto paper, especially when it comes to expressing how much someone means to you and how grateful or proud you are of them. We designed the For All Seasons collection with that sentiment in mind. These cards are a great way to remind your loved ones that you are always in their corner. And we also hope they serve as a reminder to you of how amazing you are and that we're always rooting for you. With your help, let's spread more hugs around the world, one handwritten card at a time. You can find the collection on www.voicehugspodcast.com. Now back to the episode. So I listened to all of your podcast episodes. Let's be real.
I can tell.
I listened to all of them the last week.
Wow.
And something that really stuck out to me that I didn't know was that when you were starting this new season of pursuing YouTube, someone had asked, like, what was your social life like? And you're saying that you actually didn't have one at the time. Part of it was probably a lot of work that you were doing. Your focus was on your channel. But another thing that you mentioned was this feeling of perhaps a little bit of embarrassment or shame. And I think that's something that so many people can relate to, right? At a time where you're going through something so hard, a dark time, as you mentioned, it's not our instinct to reach out to friends. And so kind of bringing us back to that time in your life, what was it like for you going through all of that? And I'm sure things have changed so much now. Like, you would not approach that time the same way.
It definitely felt like a dark tunnel that I put myself, or I locked myself into, that I did not see any light just at the end of the tunnel. I just felt so stuck in this kind of dark era, in my dark environment, in my dark thoughts, in my dark mental and physical space, where I think it all comes from putting your self-worth into success in terms of your career. And I value my self-worth, and I feel like I only value myself when I'm career-wise successful. So if I'm not doing well career-wise, I'm definitely gonna think that I am not enough, or I'm not worthy of a human being. And it's such a toxic mindset of how you view yourself, but it's so prevalent too, like in this day and age where like everyone is so ambitious and very, normal to be super career focused and super career driven, especially for women too nowadays. But
and especially in Korea.
I think because I didn't prove myself to be super successful on YouTube the way that I thought that I would be, that really started playing in my head of like, I'm pumping out and putting out so much work into creating so many videos. I was diligent. I was putting out 3 videos a week, but my growth was very, very, very stagnant on the channel. That was also the time where Korea finally welcomed YouTube. So there was like a YouTube Korea office that opened, trying to really boost viewership and creators in Korea. So I would see all these new random beauty creators that just started on the platform speaking Korean, who were literally gaining subscribers like so fast. Like they're seeing like, I don't know, 500% month over month growth. Yeah, with like such little effort that I see, honestly, compared to mine. And I'm sure I'm not like undermining their effort. I just felt like so behind and so stagnant and stuck that I didn't really see the path forward. When I'm hanging out with other creators who are doing this for fun, like on the side, and I'm pursuing this full time very seriously, and this is my entire career, and I'm just literally failing compared to them in terms of their growth and how I view success on the channels and on this platform and this ecosystem. I just was not in the best place to really put myself out there socially anymore. And I started just literally hermiting in my own room. It was interesting because I was living with my parents, and then I wasn't really proud of myself. Therefore, I didn't know what to do when it comes to social interaction, because I couldn't really carry myself as the way that I would normally. I had no respect for myself. I felt so shameful of myself. I felt like I was a failure to myself and to my parents. So what I did was I started becoming a whole night owl. So I would not really see my parents during the daytime because, my dad would go to work, my mom would just do her own thing. And then I would wake up when they would be in the midday or whatever. So that way I kind of minimize the interaction with my parents intentionally, so that I don't need to face like the quote unquote reality, and I don't need to be shameful in front of them. I talked less and less and less with my parents, and I started talking or cutting out my friends or saying no to all these like friends reaching out to me at the time to hang out or catch up. I just literally cornered myself into this like dark place. I think that really went to a point where whenever I looked at the mirror I couldn't look at myself. Yeah. So I think it was like that bad where I just felt so disrespectful of myself that I couldn't be with myself. I couldn't look at myself. I couldn't really feel all the emotions. So I was literally numbing out what I would feel, what I would do. So I would resort to drinking more. I would resort to, I'm not sure if I was smoking back then, all sorts of different avenues to explore to basically numb myself out was where I was. And yeah, I think that was a time where my skin was becoming like really bad to the point where I was developing acne, which I never had before in my teenage years, which turned out to be great.
The dots are connecting.
Yeah, that is my bread and butter. Because I had acne, I would rely on really only high coverage foundation, full on smoky eyes, because that would then like distract people's focus or like visual focus away from your skin to your eyes. Even going down to the grocery store to run errands or like to buy something from the supermarket, I would literally do a full-on makeup, wear full coverage foundation, because I felt so scared that everyone's gonna judge me for the skin or for the way that I look. So I was in there for a while until I went to Singapore in 2016, I want to say.
But so this was how many years?
This was for exactly about a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in Singapore, there's like Marina Bay Sands area, and I was having a meal with my friends. And it's interesting because when you're going through these paralyzing thoughts and these type of moments, there are friends who lets you have space, but then there are friends who lets you see the reality. And around me, I actually didn't have a lot of friends who would let me see the reality until I went to Singapore. And my friend Michael at the time, basically him and I was having a meal, and he was calling me out saying that you're lying to yourself. You feel like I don't really recognize you anymore. And he was saying all the things that I didn't want to hear, but I so needed to hear to be able to really confront myself and to be able to really acknowledge, oh, maybe I am not okay. Maybe I am going through some sort of a depression, undiagnosed, but similar to what I read on the internet. I think that really broke me into tears just uncontrollably. And I couldn't hear it anymore from him. And he's like a very brutally blunt and very honest person, which I appreciate so much. And I think you need friends like that, you know, here and there to be able to like give you a reality check. And he certainly did that with only the good intention for me to become better. That's just made me literally storm off on him in the middle of the meal, just like a K-drama moment. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I just like put my spoon down.
People probably thought it was like a lover's quarrel.
Maybe
Did
it
he
was.
do?
Yeah, and then I put my spoon down. I literally ran away from the restaurant and ran so fast down to the Marina Bay Sands area. And that entire promenade walk is so stunning. There's so many palm trees and spaciousness and a lot of benches that you can sit on. And I got so tired to the point where after running there, I just literally just like fell on the bench and then laid down. And when I looked up, there was like certainly a lot of palm trees, but the palm trees were just like waving so effortlessly from so high away. It almost felt so affirming in a way that I felt like they were saying it's okay not to be okay. And I think that was the key takeaway, or the biggest takeaway that I took from my depression or my dark time. Just seeing the palm trees, saying that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be going through what you're going through. Everyone has those moments, and changes starts from acknowledging, and changes really start from just being true to who you are and being able to confront yourself. And the palm trees made me do that in Singapore, which is why palm trees mean so much, to the point where I had to have a tattoo on my body to constantly remind myself of that certain time and certain moment. Yeah, I forgot what the question was, but we're here.
No, I mean, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that and being so open and honest and vulnerable. Of course, from the outside looking in, it never seems like someone is...
I didn't know this.
Yeah, and
Oh, really?
To this detail. I think I knew like later on. Yeah, I don't think I ever asked, but like back then.
Yeah, I think just hearing how dark to the details of what you were feeling and how hard that time was for you, I would have never known. For you to start at that place and for all the dots to connect with that impacting your skin as well and leading to creating the brand that you've created today with Crave Beauty and focusing on slowing down the skincare. And yeah, it's just, I'm just so floored right now that that was your experience that led to creating this empire that you have. It's actually so amazing.
Wow, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the extent of how much palm trees meant to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is wild.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you went through was like what I went through in like 2015, 16 when I also first started YouTube. No, that was like college. But then anyway, I also isolated myself, as you know, when we're in New York together. But thank you for sharing.
Was there any a symbol or symbolic thing that means to you that made you turn around or like start on a different path?
I think like the mirror is very symbolic. I think there was one day, I think like I was like had an eating disorder. This is back in college. And I think one day I threw up, looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, this is it. This isn't you. You're better than this. It's just like the internal voice, right? At that time, my voice is also very aggressive. It's like, you're better than this. You know better, do better. And I think that was when I was like, okay, like I'm not okay. Let's see what I could do to pick myself back up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think mirror is a good kind of indicator.
Of whether you can face yourself or not, or...
Yeah. That gave me chills. Yeah.
Okay, so... You went through dark times. You reached enlightenment under a palm tree. Knowing what you know now, if you were to go back or if something like this were to happen to you again, what would you differently, if at all? Because one thing we talk about a lot on Voice Hugs is care team, the people around you, the podcasts you listen to.
Your support system,
Exactly.
resources you tap into, and how do you build your care team over time for moments like these in your life? Because they always come.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I would have vocalized it to any of my friends if I acknowledged what I was going through and if I knew how to articulate what I was going through at the time. But it wasn't so much intentional that I started avoiding people. I don't think it was an avoidance of a care team or a support system necessarily, but it was more of an avoidance to myself. So
The chills. I keep getting the chills.
So I'm not sure like what I've done differently, but I think I wished I had more people around me at least who were, you know, more honest and who were willing to take some risk by saying like, hey, let's work on some things together, or I don't know, maybe simply offering help. I think that would have been really, really helpful for me to get on a completely opposite pathway a lot sooner. I don't know. What would you have done differently?
What you done, Viv?
I think along the same lines of what you're saying, being able to connect with someone else, as hard as it is in the moment, can make the biggest difference. And I think sometimes when we are in that phase in our life where we're in denial of what's going on, we don't want to acknowledge it because it's too painful. It's too painful to look at yourself in the mirror, right? It's having that voice in your head. This is not it, you know, like this is, and sometimes you might just have to be there for a little bit longer until that moment comes. And I'm so glad that having that moment in Singapore, I think part of when you were sharing that too, it made me think a lot of times when we're in this phase, we are doing the same things over and over again. We're in the same room, we're in the same home, we have the same habit and routine, and perhaps even going to Singapore, being in a completely different environment than what you were in, that itself can be so helpful. All of a sudden you look around and you're like, wow, there's nature, there's oxygen and air out here. Kind of just taking yourself out of that environment that you're in can make such a huge difference.
Wow, I actually like that. Yeah.
This is why Viv's going to Japan in a few days.
Are you seeking enlightenment, spiritual awakening?
Perhaps. I don't know if there are palm trees there.
You'll see like bonsai trees or like ginkgo trees.
Maybe when I see the mochi and the matcha.
It's just beautifully groomed and perfect. Okay, so dark times are very dark. Thankfully, they didn't last long because her YouTube channels are over 1 million subscribers now. Or it's been that way for a while.
Yeah.
And you've evolved so much beyond just a content creator since then. Now you have your own company. Crave Beauty with a K. It's doing fantastic, I would say.
Okay.
Right? It
Yes,
is. It's
yes.
doing pretty well. It's
Yeah.
doing well. It's doing
Yeah.
well. I was more present. Like I was there for that
Yeah.
phase of your life,
Yeah,
building
yeah,
Crave
yeah.
Beauty, starting Crave Beauty and then building it. And even then that journey was also tumultuous. You went through a lot. As a friend, I would try to support you in the ways that I could, just being there for you and trying to, being an available
Ear.
shoulder or
Yeah.
an ear.
Yeah, that meant a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I would always wonder because you're so good at just moving forward. Something happens, you deal with it and you move forward. Maybe it wasn't by choice. Maybe it was because you just had to do things that way. I'm wondering, compared to when you first started YouTube, were there similar feelings in terms of taking on this new task on your own or any sort of loneliness? Or I'm sure you're in a much different place starting Crave Beauty, but then were there moments of isolation or loneliness during that too?
Yeah, I think in a much different sense, though. I think the responsibility is so much greater when you start having a team, right? Like there are other people who's counting on you, depending on you, or depending on the business success in order to have a job, in order to get a paycheck, in order to feed their family or feed whoever. And I think that responsibility just literally hits you so differently to the point where I need to keep a certain distance from the team in order to see things more rationally and make the decision that's right for the company at times. And I think that will then accompany loneliness, some sort of isolation, and also pushing you to be kind of wear different personalities or personas in certain situations. And I think at times I almost feel like I'm faking it till I make it. But some of that is, I think, required to keep everything together. And that is maybe the hardest part that comes with the job.
How many people are on your team now?
17.
That's a lot. And then before we started recording, we're just talking about our Myers-Briggs. We're all Fs. So we're like, yes, feelings. And then Leah's like, oh yeah, I'm a P. I'm like, you're a P? And she's like, yeah, I'm a P. Before I had responsibility, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Before you had a team to take care of and people to manage and, a crazy, I'm sure, work, but also social calendar to keep up with everything.
Yeah, it's so interesting because when it comes to the Myers-Briggs personality, I have always been either an INFP or an ENFP, but certainly FMP was very, very hard, skewing to the extreme. But I think when you do have more people who depend on you, you start thinking about the reality, the rationale behind it, and trying to be more objective and all that. So you reduce the F or the feeling part of you and try to bring as much of the realistic and the most rational and most calculative version of yourself to the world. I feel like that is faking, and I can do a great job at becoming a T. And also with P and J, planner versus being...
She plans everything. All our friend stuff, she plans.
Yeah.
But maybe it's because you're like, if I don't plan it, it's going to happen. And I only have this time to do it. So let me plan it for this time.
I want to say it's not necessarily faking it, because that feels like it has a little bit of a negative connotation to it. But I think you've learned how to be successful in the environment that you're in.
Love that.
You've learned how to adapt your style to, whether it's the personalities or the role that you're in. How do you prioritize and how do you be successful in that environment or bring your company to where you want it to be. Along the way, whether it was making sacrifices or truly being authentic to yourself every time you walk into the room, it's not that you're not authentic to yourself, but it's just that you've learned how to communicate in a different way, hold yourself in a different way. But there's definitely still a sense of self, I'm sure, because life now looks very different for you when it comes to feeling at peace or happy or having that balance in personal life, because there has to be some sense of authenticity, you know, even just that awareness of faking it. You know who you are and you know who you have to be in order to work well.
Wow.
And I think that's why you're so cool, actually.
Wow, you are
because
so
you're
articulate.
able to flex that, but then also be yourself.
Wow. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I love this. No. I love how you put it to, like, you framed it in a way that's more positive, and I'm more flexible and adaptive rather than me just like suppressing something and I'm like faking some other personalities. But I think you're right. Yeah.
Something I do want to talk about too is your curiosity. I feel like your curiosity has brought you to these like different pivotal points in your life. Being curious with the YouTube channel, being curious with what am I currently doing with my skincare routine where I'm applying 20 different products. Is this right? You know, asking those questions, which led to creating Crave, and not only making the brand based on consumer needs, but also being able to challenge a whole entire industry on the process, on sustainability, on, hey, are we doing this? Are we doing the best that we can as people for the world? I'm so curious how, you know, like the fact that you went through all of that internally while simultaneously having these curious questions, thoughts, and wanting to solve these problems. How did that kind of come to be? Were you always like that?
I honestly think curiosity or following my curiosity pretty aggressively is my strongest suit. It's kind of like the vice of following your passion, but passion is more of an interest that can be died down. It could be changed with different phases of life that you're in. The advice that I always follow myself, at least, is follow your curiosity and just start double clicking like madly.
I love that.
Yeah.
I actually haven't heard that before.
Yeah, I like that.
So
Put it on a t-shirt.
yeah. So I honestly think that has resulted me to be going down deep into, okay, like I have acne. I've tried literally everything conventionally, from antibiotics, so many laser treatments, and applying literally 14-step skincare routine every single day, using Clarisonic physical vibrating cleansing brushes morning and night, with physical scrubs that come after. And it was a whole mess, but I was following the advice that the beauty industry was giving me. It was so odd because like nothing was working. My skin was only becoming more inflamed, more sensitized.
Sure, it was worse.
Yeah, it was probably worse.
Mine was like that too, because I had acne growing up.
Yeah. I think that's why at one point I knew that something wasn't working, and I had a pretty good knowledge of how the skincare ingredients work on the skin. But I noticed that I don't have any knowledge of how our skin as an organ that we're born with works at all on a biological level. And I started researching about what is our skin made up with, and why are they there, and what do they do, and what happens if you're deficient in certain nutrients inside, what happens to the skin. So I think that's when I really went down the rabbit hole of answering my own questions of like, how can I actually rebalance my skin from acne skin to a more just like normal, less acne skin. That was a time where I also felt so passionate about sharing anything that I discovered through these like scientific journals and whatever Reddit forums that I was part of into the world, because the more you know about your skin, the more respect that you have for your skin. Your skin is such a great organ that knows how to keep that equilibrium, and it's meant to become the best shield of your body to keep the external stressors out and keep your hydration in and keep all the nutrients in and all the essential things that you want to keep inside the body. Skin is that kind of like outer shield.
I'm like, oh my God, I love my skin now.
You love your skin.
I love my skin. It's doing so much for me.
Exactly. So the more you learn about your skin, you're like, wow, like
It knows what it is doing.
it knows how to do, it knows what to do. And sometimes I feel like the entire marketing around the beauty industry has trained us to believe that it doesn't know how to do it. Therefore, you need help
There's
from
something
these
wrong.
skincare products. And I think that was something that I really wanted to change, at least from a content level. So that's why I started preaching less is more, respect your skin, start caring for your skin barrier. That's like the best skincare ingredient, which is free, costs you $0. You don't need to add any products if you start respecting it. That really did resonate well with people who have gone down the extreme
more
route.
is more path.
Yeah, the
10
maximalist
step, yeah.
route. And haven't seen any results because they already have sensitive skin, so they were overloading. And yeah, I think that's that was a great indicator of really following my curiosity can result into helping people, in freeing people up from the toxic cycle of skin abuse with overloading so many products, into liberating them into a very minimalistic, less is more, skin loving routine. Just seeing that as an impact of me following my curiosity has rewarded me so greatly that I started pursuing that more of then what does it look like for the beauty industry to develop a product? And I remember very clearly when I was working for a corporate job that every product development meeting start with a sales target. It was never about how are we solving this customer skin. There's like a Rowena in LA who's dealing with XYZ type of skin conditions. But I think it's very inherently flawed because you are selling the products ultimately to the user and you're not really considering the user's pain points or what their needs are in the product development process, rarely. So that was something that I think I have also a very just mindset where I seek justice in a lot of things.
You do.
And I think just coupled with that will definitely had pushed me to incorporate more of that mindset into creating products for the people and trying to be considerate of all the stakeholders involved, including suppliers, and all that had resulted in the work that we do, I guess, at Crave. But it was a very gradual thing, I think. Yeah.
Even though this angle is about skin, what's really cool for me, like hearing you say that and seeing your journey with how you've created this brand, and it's almost like a movement, it feels like to me, is that this kind of can be applied to everything. You know, like if we are just a little bit more intuitive with ourselves, our body, not just our skin, but everything, our minds, what a difference that would make if we asked ourselves a little bit more, if we double clicked a little bit more and did research on, you know, we've been doing this a certain way. Is it the right way? Does it make sense? What's the impact that we're making? It makes such a huge difference. And I think what I've gotten out of seeing how you've approached Crave is slowing down in general. And I can see how much of a difference that makes in someone's life, whether it's their skin or how they approach anything.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm in awe. I've always known all this about you, but just I think you're very special.
You guys are special, so
thank you
too. Yeah.
Thank you. But I think I mean, no buts. It's just if more companies thought the way that you thought, as just like as a person and approaching this challenge, I guess, or even like approaching trying to be the change you want to see in the world, I think the world would be a much, much, much better place.
Yeah.
And then one thing that Viv was so excited about and she thought was so cool was your Waste Me Not campaign and pop-up.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That was so cool to me. I think stripping the process down and showing us the behind the scenes of the type of waste that gets created when it comes to product development, showcasing that and then making something out of it, it just made me love your brand and you and your team even more, because imagine if everyone did that, what a world it would be, you know. And there's nothing bad or embarrassing about having waste. It's just part of the production, but how can we make it better?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about why you decided to do that and
like what it was.
Yeah. So Waste Me Not campaign from Crave Beauty was basically talking about the waste that gets generated behind the scenes, because when it comes to sustainability, or when people think about beauty waste, it's always packaging. And it is true that like packaging does generate a lot of waste, and sometimes it doesn't get properly recycled, then it'll get into landfill, then it'll have like a completely different end of life. But sometimes a larger waste can get generated behind the scenes, behind the curtains in the manufacturing process. If anyone worked in the kitchen, like you would know, even if you followed the exact recipe making a spaghetti, you would have a failed batch, and then you would throw it away and make a new one. And that's how your spaghetti is probably served in restaurants. Most of the times people won't know about the failed batches. It was the time during COVID where we mostly manufacture out of South Korea, and then there was a whole global supply chain crisis where all of our shipment from South Korea to the US would get stuck in the port, especially in the Newport Beach in LA. So the boat was like literally the ocean freight was like standing there being stalled for like
it was
months
like when
and
there's
months.
like hundreds of boats just waiting.
Exactly. So in the next order that we placed to the manufacturer, we actually placed a very massive order for the matcha hemp hydrating cleanser, which is the cleanser that we had a pretty consistent demand. So we
It's
knew,
what you launched with.
Yeah. It's the oldest product out of the entire assortment.
My favorite cleanser.
Yeah. So we ordered that, and we ran a mass production at that point. So imagine cooking like a spaghetti like
100 like 10,000
million times more, like million times bigger.
Wow.
So that was for us to save for like about a year, because like this global supply chain crisis was not really getting resolved anytime soon. And we get a call from the manufacturer saying that, hey, actually, the batch is, so our matcha cleanser, I don't know if you tried it at all, but it's very jammy and very jelly. It's like very, very fun to play with. Yeah, it's super bouncy, but the batch turned out to be so flat and very, very watery and super fluid. So they were basically saying like, we can remake it. We can just like throw this batch away and we will remake it for you. For me, since I knew that that was a huge batch, that was the biggest product order we ever placed in history, I cannot like imagine that going down into the drain, which is a common process for the beauty industry, common process for the food industry, for any product industry. If any production goes wrong, that will get disposed and discarded. I think that was the first time me like actually learning tangibly about, wow, like this is so much waste. This is so much waste. And
that's a lot of spaghetti.
that is a lot of spaghetti to just, put it down the drain. So that campaign was also born out of me trying to solve the problem. We're like crisis mode. Consciously, I couldn't let that happen. And also, this is a perfectly fine cleanser that will cleanse your skin regardless. It's just not the texture that will be the same. And I thought, why don't we just make a limited edition matcha hemp body wash out of it, add a little bit more surfactants and cleansing agents and foaming agents so that people can use it as a body wash. And that was a part of Waste Me Not project, where we launched a limited edition body wash, which I hope to never launch it again.
Selfishly, I'm like, I wish I got one.
Yeah. So that was one. And then another one was when it comes to an innovative texture, you oftentimes need to do a small batch pilot production, meaning that what the formula that you approved in a lab setting, the biggest is going to be like a liter worth. And you need to scale that up to a big, gigantic kettle that stores, I don't know, maybe 50 liters to kind of engineer the entire process. Anyways, our Makeup Rewind is a jelly oil cleanser. These like jellies are causing so much problems to me. So this jelly oil cleanser, because it was such a unique product and it was a new ingredient that we were trialing, and the manufacturer was also new to this as well. When we scaled that up into a small batch mass production, that turned out to be super flat and very, very watery, just like a typical cleansing oil. And that consciously just, I could not approve that. Like that is not the
Strong,
the
conscious,
formula.
very
Very
just.
strong.
Yeah. So that said, I took it back to the lab and then I said, we need to rework this. We need to redesign the entire engineering system to scale it up properly so that it stays as a jelly when it's produced in a mass scale. And we had to run a couple of pilot productions because of that. That said, we had a perfectly efficacious cleansing oil that's sitting there that hasn't just been approved because of the texture, but it is going to be, perfectly fine at removing makeup. So we thought, okay, like this is a common also waste that gets generated with all pharma, all food, all beauty. This is also a good opportunity for us to maybe educate the customer on this, because people only think about the packaging. This is oftentimes way bigger that happens behind the scenes. No one will ever know. And
Because brands also don't talk about it.
they will
They
never
don't want
talk
to.
about it.
Yeah.
Also, it will also bring down the brand equity to luxurious and prestigious brands too. So that was the Waste Me Not campaign, where we did like a whole educational program and marketing around it, but also we sold all of these like imperfect batches at cost. People were very supportive, and I think it's something that we're also very amazed by, because we didn't expect how well received this campaign is going to be. We didn't receive like how many people out there would be actually willing to try an imperfect product, and there were, and we sold out on all the batches pretty quickly. That was Waste Me Not, and I am proud of it. Yeah.
And the pop-up was so cute. You guys designed
Yeah.
a whole space, and it was like a little grocery store.
Yeah.
I messaged Ro at the time and I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could go there just for the pop-up. Like just now, I was like, I wish I selfishly got to get one of those products.
yeah.
It's crazy because this type of waste gets generated everywhere and no one talks about it. And I think it's so cool that you were able to take that and use it as an opportunity to educate the masses. And in a lot of ways, I think that's what makes you so inspirational. It's that you're not afraid to take something that's different or challenge the status quo. Be honest and transparent with it. And that kind of feels like the theme of today's episode too, where it's that moment where you were honest and transparent with yourself, that change is able to happen, and people want to be a part of it. People want to be a part of that movement to like make a difference. Just be good to ourselves and to the world. Yeah.
And I think there's so many things you could have done, but the fact that you chose to sell these imperfect goods at cost, and you're very transparent and open and honest about it, I think that is why people love and respect you, and also why they love and respect Crave Beauty as a brand. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know any other way.
It's amazing how driven you are by, I don't know, it's like, is this like inner voice that was be strengthened through your pom-pom journey, through like the dark ages pom-pom journey. That's when you're like, ooh, I have great thoughts. I am an amazing person, and I have these ideas, and I have these questions that I want to answer. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
And it's led you to where you are today.
Yeah. Where are we now? I have no idea
that is
I am somewhere on the 101 highway. I do not know where the exit is right now.
Thank you for taking us on your journey the last 10 years. It's amazing.
Of course.
What are you looking most forward to now? It doesn't have to be work related or Crave Beauty related.
Yeah.
What are you looking most forward to right now in life?
Honestly, slowing down. I say slow down skincare, but I never slow down myself.
Slow down life.
Honestly, slow down life is where I want to be, and I think I'm at a place where my health is now getting compromised. So I do want to prioritize myself. And, when I do visit functional medicine doctors and Eastern medicine doctors, their prescription is just to slow down. Like there's no other medicines that you should take or drugs that will help my symptoms or what I'm going through. But the best cure is going to be for you to take a breather, for you to slow down.
Get more sleep.
I get a
gets
lot of
enough
sleep. I got a good score on my sleep scores. So it's just
She has the superpower where she just... and then she's out.
Yeah. So overall, slowing down is something that I want to be, because when you slow down, that is when you can actually think clearest, right?
That is true.
And when you can become very creative. And I haven't really been creative, to be honest, the past year. I think I've been a full-on operation mode. That's been really not fulfilling me personally. So hopefully a slow down life with Ro and Viv, with the Voice Hugs crew would be so nice.
Aw, yay. I'm excited for this new season in your life of slowing down and all the ideas that hopefully come to you so that the world gets to benefit from everything that you come up with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We love you.
We love you.
And we're so grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Where can our listeners find you and Crave?
You can find me at all social channels at Leah U, LIAHYOO, and then Crave Beauty. You can find them on all social channels and website at cravebeauty.com with a K.
Crave Beauty.
Crave Beauty, babes.
All right. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you.
Voice Hugs.
Voice Hugs.
Let's hear Voice Hugs from you too.
Voice Hugs.
Voice Hugs. Bye.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Amazing.